When I think about what I want my ideal camera to have, I want these things. I'd want a full frame sensor, ability to have 6K and 4K and S35, 3x2 open gate, electronic internal NDs, an interchangeable lens mount, and available in a box modular size. And when I think about a camera that has all that, there's not many, but I'll tell you one that does, the Kinefinity Mavo Edge 6K. Let's get into it. So in 2023, the first camera I reviewed here on YouTube was the Mavo LF Mark II, which is exactly the same camera body as this, but with a few key differences. It didn't have the dual card slot, didn't have this D-tap on the body, and the biggest feature it didn't have was the internal electronic ND that you find inside this camera. For me, I was really close to buying a Mavo LF2, but the thing that held me back was the lack of internal ND. I just thought with a camera as feature-rich as this, or as that one, if you just had an internal ND, it would just tick so many boxes. It left such an impression on me that I couldn't wait for another opportunity to shoot in Kinefinity. And the opportunity came a few months back. The guys from Kinefinity asked me if I wanted to review the camera and use it over a few months on some film projects that I had, and also some ones that the Staffordshire Film Collective, which I'm a part of, wanted to do. Now, right off the bat, this has got to be one of the best designed camera bodies I've ever used. It's compact, and you've got loads of buttons on here, loads of features, but it has XLR inputs on the body of the camera. But then get this, it also has a hidden 3.5mm jack right here in the front of the camera body. In terms of outputs, this is where this camera is ready for a production environment. It doesn't have one, not two, but 3 SDI outputs. Now it's SDI 1, SDI 2, and a test SDI. The thing about this, they send out the same feed. Now, if you set in your menus to be able to have status on your SDI, it will appear on all 3 SDI outputs. You also have a time code in this camera. You can use V-Lock and BPU batteries to power the camera. Now it also has DC in for a battery, or DC out for Unlimo for battery, as well as an Ethernet and a few other ports. I didn't really make use of those, to be perfectly honest. The only one I made use of is the USB-C, and that was when I was updating the firmware to Kine OS 8. Sorry, Kinefinity, I wasn't know if I was supposed to do that, but I did anyway, and it worked just fine. Now, going onto the front of the camera, I want to talk about this camera's superpower. So the secret power of this camera, along with the 3 SDI outputs, are the 2 outputs that it has on the front of the camera that connect to both the EVF and the monitor. You can choose either one to power either of those things. So the kit that Kinefinity sent out with me did have both, and I was able to power them all at the same time and from the camera, and still have a independent SDI out to send a feed via wireless transmitter to a director's monitor or to my focus puller. So it's a camera that kind of has all the bases covered for your production. So I've been able to use the camera in different productions, from client projects for large museums to short films and to some talking head documentaries. It's been lovely to use it. I think the thing that's striking to me most about the camera is just how user-friendly it is. It's really easy to understand. Even though there's tons of formats in the menu you can choose from, it's all very clear and it's all very easy to follow. What I love about this camera is just the flexibility of formats. You can shoot everything from 3x2 open gate in 6K to 241, 69. You can crop up down to Super 16 all the way from the full frame sensor, and you just have so much flexibility. Now it shoots in ProRes formats from all the way down from ProRes LT all the way to 444XQ. And the thing about ProRes, it's an industry standard codec that has been used so widely in the industry that everyone's used to it now. Using over a few months, I found with various lenses, I just felt like the flexibility this camera gives you really allows you to experiment more. I shot some stuff on with the nanomorph zoom, and then the Pavo anamorphics, and then the Remus we've shot some stuff on it with, and then we have some normal spherical lenses. And because you have all those options, it really allows you to experiment with different looks and different formats. If you wanted to make your Blazar Remus 1x5 kind of fit to a 16:9 or 2:1 sensor, shoot in 6x5 4K or 6K, and you are able to like make that anamorphic look, but in like a 16:9 or 2:1 format. This camera allows you to do that. The thing about using this camera, I wanted to be objective and I wanted us to make use of it in the collective. I let the guys from the collective use it when a shoot I wasn't on for a short film called What You Missed, which was directed by Charles Goldstraw. Wayne had a great time. The visuals are on screen now and they look brilliant. And the thing that the guys told me was something about that image just gravitated you towards it. And I'm gonna have a little bit of audio from them now saying what it is, see how they felt.
So we've been using the Mavo Edge 6K. It's not my first time DPing with it, but I have used it in the past with Anderson and Dom in one of the projects he had. I mean, I was never raving about it, but I think now that I've actually used it properly, I mean, what I'm getting out of it is really good. It's got everything I need. There are a few things where, you know, could get a bit better in terms of like logistics and stuff. And it's a bit of a Frankenstein rig, as he said, but we got the camera the day before the shoot and we just had to just rig it out as fast as we could. So we've been using these Canon Cines, and honestly they're amazing. They're really good. They don't break the bank, which is really good too. But I think the big guy here is what's taking a lot of the image, obviously apart from the lighting. But I don't know, it's got so many different codecs that just, you literally just can shoot anything with this, I think.
Now, one thing I found when using it was I loved that the base ISOs were what they were. So this camera has a dual base ISO of 800 and 5120, and that gives you so much flexibility when you're shooting. With this camera, we were in a situation where I was shooting a short film, a pickup for a short film that was already shot mostly in Alexa Mini, and we needed to get a new scene. And when we were losing light, I needed to go up to ISO 1600 just to get that bit of light. It's at ISO 1600, it looked great. Not much noise. You can see on here, you wouldn't really tell that I've shot at ISO 1600, and whatever noise processing they're doing camera gives you a cleaner image. It was a camera I was more confident to use on a short where we know we had to shoot fast. There might be not as much lighting I could use. I might have to depend on natural lighting more because where we were shooting was quite a small space. And I was like, okay, if we lose too much light, I don't want to have to overlight, because that's what sometimes I'd have to do with the Pixis. But it was something that I felt that this camera just allowed me to just get on with the job and not have to worry too much about, oh, can the camera handle this low light or whatever. It was beautiful. As you can see, the visuals of the camera look great. I've heard talk in the past about how the sensor is average and the dynamic range is limited. Look, for my bare eyes, I can't see it. If you know how to compose an image, if you know how to expose, this camera gives you plenty. Every time I've shot with it, I'm always satisfied with the visuals. Again, I'm not shooting any dynamic range tests, but how I was able to shoot with the camera, it was really flexible. I loved how the image of this camera and the ISO and being able to use your camera and not necessarily think about what the base ISO is. If you just needed to get a bit more of exposure, you could just up your ISO. I know that's not the ideal way to expose and you want to be planning that beforehand, but you can't always plan ahead for certain things. So I found in this respect, the camera was a bit run and gun, ready for situations like that. So I loved using it and I just love the image I get from it. And in another project, I was shooting a commercial for Samaritans, which I'm going to do a breakdown on the channel later on. And with the commercial Samaritans, I mainly shot on the Pixis, to be perfectly honest. But then what I also wanted to do is get some gimbal shots. And the size of the Kinefinity, it being this small box, I'm just going to get it up again. With the Kinefinity being this size, it was perfect for gimbals. We were putting the DZO Pavo anamorphics on the front of this camera and be able to balance it on an RS3 Pro gimbal. I couldn't do that with the Pixis. The Pixis was just too long. But with this camera being as compact, to be able to balance it and get those beautiful shots. I love the look we got in the park and outside, and having that internal electronic ND. Oh, you could just dial that exposure to what you want. For me, it's very hard to go back to the set stop system. I know it's, you know, technically cleaner and optically better, but when you're shooting fast, being able to dial in your ND to get the exposure right where you want it, it is much more valuable than having the step system. And I think it looked great. Some of the things that I thought were some of the drawbacks of the camera, when you're filling up your card and other cameras would switch to the other card that's empty, this camera stops recording and you got to start recording again when it's filled up. That's something I didn't know. And you have to manually switch the card, which there's like 3 steps in the menu to do that. That's a little annoying, but I get it. The other downside is if you the Kine mount and that EF system where it's this locking EF, you got to match the pins correctly onto your lens. We were on shoot trying to use a 70-200 and we were there for 3 or 4 minutes just trying to get it to recognize. It was really annoying. Again, it does work, but it took us like 6 or 7 goes just to get it to line up perfectly so it initialized on the camera. Now, this other con is going to surprise you. I think it being ProRes only is a con. I think this camera with, say, Blackmagic's RAW would be perfect because there were times where I didn't bother to shoot in 6K because the file sizes were just so humongous. So most of the time, if I'm honest, I treated this like a 4K camera. The downsampled image still looked great, still looked beautiful, still gave me everything I needed, all the dynamic range, performance, and the file sizes were more palatable. When I'm shooting in shorts or narrative or commercial, I would shoot in Apple ProRes 444, but never XQ. I just thought XQ is very wasteful. And I think the question I would have of the industry, is it time to kind of move on from Apple ProRes and to something more efficient? It's not a con against Kinefinity, it's just a con against Apple ProRes. The media, as great as it is, it's very expensive. And because it's proprietary, I do get worried that if one of them breaks, you know, I'm gonna have to order one from China. Luckily, you know, here in the UK, I have Pro AV that I could buy them from. Whereas now everyone's migrating to CF Express Type B, which is more than fast enough and cheap enough that for the price of one Kinemag, I could get like 3 or 4 really half decent CF Express Type B cards. So that's something. The cost of the media is expensive. So in 2025, is a Kinefinity Mavo Edge still a good camera? Of course it is. I think it's still a great option. The reality is we're now in a time where people are looking for cameras to do a lot, but at the same time not be really large and not be expensive. This camera is an ideal size where it has all the professional outputs, settings, features that you would expect from a high-end cinema camera, but the size and compactness of it allows you to still have something that you can use as a one-man band as well as in a team or in a small documentary setting or in a large crew. The only thing it lacks is autofocus, and if you need that, then you have to look somewhere else. But this camera gives a lot of bang for your buck, and I think it's worth looking at. At the time of this video, the Kinefinity has just finished a sale where the camera was selling for around £6,000. The original price for this was the body only around 10 grand, 10 to 12 grand. And then, you know, when you buy more accessories, it starts to go up in price to 15 grand. You really, with a camera that cost, you're expecting a good level of support that you'll be able to send it to a service center or whatever when you start spending that much money. And other than Pro AV, I'm not sure you can do that with this camera. Now, I don't want to hold that against it. That's just something you got to be aware of. And with the sale price point that it was at of 6,000, I think that's something I would palette a lot more because just the amount this camera gives you is something I think that's really good. So in summary, I think for me, the thing about using the Mavo Edge was that it was a camera that never got in the way. It was a camera that when I wanted to make a look or make an image or light a certain way, I didn't have to compensate for the camera's lack of being able to do something. It looked great in full frame 6K, 4K, cropped S35 4K, even cropped Super 16. It looked sharp and it looked good. It was a camera that was flexible in a lot of situations. You know, being able to use it on client-facing talking heads to action-oriented short films, I loved using it. It's a camera I loved, and I gotta say, it's a camera that's really high on my list. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Mavo Edge? It's a great camera. Did you know much about it? And is it something you would consider? You can check out a couple links I have below. If you're in the UK or in the EU and you're interested in Kinefinity, check out Pro AV. They're a great team, and they're the UK's only reseller of Kinefinity's Okay, that's enough for this video. Mavo 6K, great camera, some slight quirks, but I think an all-round production workhorse. Alright everyone, thanks for watching, and remember, stay shooting.